Did you know a single meeting between two global powerhouses recently redefined the path to peace and challenged diplomatic norms in the frigid expanse of Alaska?
It certainly got everyone talking.
Welcome to the deep dive. We plunge into critical global events to give you, well, the essential insights, those aha moments you might be looking for.
Exactly.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into the 2025 Russia-United States Summit. You probably heard it called Alaska 2025, or maybe the Trump-Putin Summit.
Right, August 15th at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, up in Anchorage.
And this wasn't just, another high-level meeting. It felt different, really unprecedented.
Absolutely. Think about it, the first time President Putin was invited to a Western country since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine started back in 2022.
And not just any Western country, the U.S., and on a U.S. military base, no less. That's a first for a Russian president. It signals a pretty big shift in diplomatic posture.
A huge shift.
The stakes going in, incredibly high. President Trump, he campaigned hard on ending the Russia-Ukraine war, pushing for a fast resolution.
Yeah, the lead-up was intense, a real pressure cooker situation. You had escalating threats, counter-threats.
Right. Trump had floated those massive 100% tariffs on countries doing business with Russia if no peace deal happened within 50 days.
And then he slashed that deadline, shortened it dramatically, down to just 10 or 12 days, said there wasn't enough progress.
Talk about turning up the heat. And the visuals on arrival, they matched the tension, didn't they?
Oh, definitely. That L-shaped red carpet, the big Alaska 2025 sign, and 4 F-22 Raptors parked right there. Powerful stuff.
Sets a very specific tone for high-level talks, that's for sure.
It does.
So, our mission today, let's unpack the background, what actually happened during the summit, and the outcomes, which were maybe a bit surprising. We want to help you understand what this means for global security and, the ongoing search for peace.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this diplomatic gauntlet leading to Alaska, President Trump's 2024 campaign promise, end the war, fast, maybe even day one, though that didn't quite happen.
No, but the administration did move pretty quickly to initiate contact. There's that surprise phone call, wasn't there? February 12th, 2025, Trump and Putin.
That's the one. Kicked off peace negotiations for the first time since, 2022?
That's right. And you had key officials involved early on. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff meeting with Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister over in Saudi Arabia.
So talks started, but then came the leverage plays. How did that economic pressure really unfold?
Well, it was fascinating strategically. That 100% tariff threat on July 14th, targeting any country trading with Russia if no peace deal in 50 days, that was a massive economic weapon being brandished.
A huge stick.
Exactly. But then, citing slow progress, Trump cut that deadline right down. July 28th, he says, no, you've got 10 or 12 days. That seriously ramped things up.
And this was happening against a backdrop of rising nuclear tensions, too, right?
Very much so. You had Dmitry Medvedev, Russia's former president, on July 31st posting on Telegram about the dead hand system.
Dead hand. That sounds ominous.
It is. It's a Cold War relic. Basically, a fail-safe Soviet system designed to launch a retaliatory nuclear strike automatically, even if their command structure was wiped out. Bringing that up was, well, it was a stark reminder.
Chilling. So Medvedev mentions dead hand. Trump announces moving submarines.
What, nuclear submarines, yeah.
Yeah.
Moving towards Russia. That was August 1st. A very direct response.
And Russia fires back.
They did. August 4th, Russia says it's no longer bound by that 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, the INF Treaty.
The one the U.S. already left back in 2019.
Correct. So Russia's saying, okay, we're out too, formally. Then the very next day, August 5th, this special U.S. aircraft, a WC-135R Constant Phoenix.
The nuke sniffer.
That's the one. Designed to detect radioactive particles. It was spotted flying near Russia's Kola Peninsula.
Suggesting what? Potential testing?
Analysts thought it might signal an upcoming Russian test of their Burevestnik missile. That's the nuclear-powered, nuclear-capable cruise missile. So yeah, it felt less like traditional diplomacy and more like a high-stakes game of chicken.
Definitely sounds like it created an incredibly tense environment for the actual face-to-face meeting. These weren't just symbolic moves.
No. Deliberate escalations. Trying to gain leverage. Every word, every gesture at the summit itself was going to be under a microscope.
Amidst all that, why Alaska? Why Anchorage?
Several reasons. Strategically, it's sort of midway between the capitals. Geographically sensible.
Okay.
It also has historical ties.
Yeah.
Used to be Russian territory, still has Russian Orthodox communities.
Right.
But crucially, The U.S. isn't part of the Rome Statute.
Which established the International Criminal Court.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the ICC has that arrest warrant out for Putin for alleged war crimes related to Ukraine. Since the U.S. isn't a signatory, Trump could host Putin on U.S. soil without triggering immediate legal obligations under the statute. It cleared a major diplomatic hurdle.
Interesting. And leading up, Trump made it clear he didn't think a meeting between Putin and Zelensky was needed beforehand.
Yeah, on August 7th, he said that wasn't essential before his sit-down with Putin.
Yeah.
A very direct leader-to-leader approach.
And Russia's precondition, what were they saying?
According to a Kremlin source reported at the time, their condition for halting the war was basically getting eastern Ukraine.
So, high stakes, clear preconditions, unprecedented location, nuclear posturing. What actually happened when they finally got in the room?
The arrival itself was quite something. Like you said, very visual. Trump lands 10:22 a.m. Alaska time, that L-shaped red carpet, the Alaska 2025 sign, and those 4 F-22s standing guard.
What message do those jets really send? Peace talks flanked by fighter jets.
It's classic peace through strength signaling, isn't it? Or maybe diplomacy backed by power. The F-22s are America's top air superiority fighters. It's a visual reminder of the military reality underpinning the talks.
A projection of power while talking peace.
Precisely. Now, the meeting format changed slightly. Planned as one-on-one, but it ended up being 3-on-3.
Who joined them?
For the U.S., Secretary of State Rubio and Special Envoy Witkoff. For Russia, Foreign Minister Lavrov and Foreign Policy Aide Yuri Ushakov.
And Lavrov made his own statement, didn't he, with his clothing choice?
He did. Arrived at his hotel wearing a white sweatshirt with IUSSR printed on it. The Guardian called it a not-so-subtle act of trolling.
Doesn't exactly scream de-escalation, does it?
Not really. Sends a message about Russia's mindset, perhaps. Or at least Lavrov's.
So the meeting itself, how long did it last?
Started around 11:32 a.m. Alaska time, wrapped up at 2:18 p.m., so nearly 3 hours. And that planned bilateral lunch, it got canceled.
Canceled. Why? Too tense or just ran out of time?
Hard to say definitively. Could indicate complexity, maybe tension, or just that they needed every minute for the talks.
And the press conference afterwards, what were the key sound bites?
Putin acknowledged relations were strained, said the meeting was overdue, but held in a, quote, respectful, constructive, and mutually respectful atmosphere.
Okay. And Trump?
Trump said he'd, quote, always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, but that it was, quote, impeded by investigations. He also agreed with Putin, saying Putin confirmed that the security of Ukraine must be ensured.
Seems positive on the surface. But the big question, was there a ceasefire? Any concrete deal?
And that's the crucial point. No. A ceasefire was not agreed upon. And maybe just as telling, neither leader took any questions from the press afterwards.
No questions at all after 3 hours of talks.
None. Trump did call the meeting productive and noted great progress, but he added that important caveat. There's no deal until there's a deal.
Meaning?
Meaning they agreed on many points, most of them, he said, but there were still a couple of big ones that we haven't quite got there. Those big ones presumably being the major obstacles.
Like territory, maybe.
Security guarantees.
Key suspects. Putin then invited Trump to Moscow for a follow-up, and Trump's response was interesting. That's an interesting one. I'll get a little heat on that one. But I could see it possibly happening.
That would certainly cause a stir.
No doubt. And all this contrasted sharply with what Ukraine's President Zelensky had said beforehand. Basically, any talks are needed, but Kiev must be included for decisions to be effective. And he reiterated Ukraine wouldn't gift land to the occupier. Right, Ukraine's position seemed pretty firm. So the summit ends, no ceasefire, no questions answered. How did the world react?
Immediately, and quite loudly.
Yeah.
You had significant protests right there in Alaska. Pro-Ukraine, anti-Trump, anti-Putin. It showed a strong public feeling against the war and maybe against this particular engagement.
And online.
Online, places like Reddit, you saw a lot of sharp criticism. People really unhappy with the outcome and with Trump's role. Comments like, Americans have never looked so weak or harsher things. The acronym Taco Trump always chickens out was used quite a bit by critics.
So real concern about the perception of U.S. leadership, a fear of selling out Ukraine.
That was definitely a major theme among critics. And you had figures like John Bolton, former national security advisor, saying just holding the summit was a big win for Putin, gave him legitimacy on the world stage again, despite everything.
That's a tough perspective. What about the actual fighting? Did it pause for the summit? Sadly, no. The military reality didn't stop for diplomacy. Russian forces reportedly breached Ukrainian lines in Donetsk just before the summit, and attacks continued during the talks.
Really underscores the disconnect, doesn't it?
It does. And the UN reported that civilian casualties in Ukraine for July 2025, just before the summit, were the highest since May 2022. So, while the U.S. showcased its military hardware around the talks, the spy planes, bombers, fighters, the diplomacy itself hit a wall when it came to stopping the actual violence. Foundational objectives just remained too far apart.
It sounds like President Trump's focus was really on getting a deal, any deal, to stop the fighting, and he was willing to walk if it wasn't productive.
That certainly fits his stated approach. He mentioned having solved 6 wars in the last 6 months, being proud of it, but calling Russia-Ukraine actually the most difficult. His willingness to state, I would walk, yeah, if talks weren't going anywhere, reflects that results-driven, maybe even transactional view of diplomacy.
Prioritizing national interest and tangible outcomes. Exactly. And his comments on security guarantees for Ukraine, saying they'd be along with Europe and other countries, but not in the form of NATO, also suggests a flexible approach, maybe prioritizing U.S. interests over traditional alliance structures or commitments. It's about stopping the killing, getting a deal beneficial to the U.S., even via unconventional routes.
So let's wrap this up. Our deep dive shows the Alaska summit was, well, a major diplomatic moment, significant dialogue, great progress claimed on some points, but ultimately no immediate ceasefire, no final deal.
Right. It really highlighted how complex international relations are. Deeply conflicting national interests, different views of history and security. It means peace is often incredibly hard to achieve, even when the leaders meet face to face.
It definitely underlines why it's so important for you, listening, to stay plugged into these global events. The pursuit of peace, it's an ongoing process in a constantly shifting landscape.
Which leaves us with a pretty challenging thought, doesn't it? When these direct, high-pressure talks between world leaders don't result in immediate peace, what's next? What actually is the most effective way forward to resolve these brutal conflicts? And what role should individual nations or alliances really play in trying to shape that future?